Welcome back to the Follow Project. I'm Pastor Chris Solak. Thanks so much, guys, for all your help liking and subscribing to the channel. Please continue to do so. We always appreciate your comments as well. It helps us so much with the algorithm and spreading the gospel across the platform. Well, you can also go to thefollowproject.com to sign up for, of course, our newsletter. It's a great way to stay in contact with the ministry. And then you can also go to thefollowproject.com/books. We have just released a 30-day devotion for the book of Ephesians, and then we also have a secondary book that has the devotions, but it also has a small group study built into it as well, that if you want to do it within a corporate environment, this is something the Lord has been leading us to do, and we're going to be releasing many other studies and devotional books in the oncoming months, but this is the first of many to come, so check that out. Of course, all the links are in the description below. Well, we're continuing to talk here in Hebrews chapter 4. Today we're talking about verses 14 and 15, and we're talking about the priestly role, the priestly intercessory role of Christ. You know, it's encouraging to know that Jesus is sitting at the right hand of the Father, intercessing for you and I, and most importantly, that we would be grabbing hold of the fact that not only did he get to go through every kind of temptation that you and I struggle with, but most importantly, that he's relaying that to the Father. That he is looking at each and every one of us in our circumstances, and that he is intercessing for us before the Father. And so it speaks to two different actions that are going on. Number one, that the Father would understand what we're going through here in the fallen reality. That this was one of the reasons that Jesus came, was that the Father would have better context of what it's like to live in the fallen reality. You know, God, the Father, cannot know evil. And so it is evil that separated us from him to begin with. Sin being evil. And so being that a part of his nature, that Christ has become not just that mediator, but he is the gateway to the Father, as he said in John 14:6. And this is not only the evidence for it, but it's the practical approach. And so he's not just sitting there mediating, he's also intercessing for us. I don't know if you've ever done any prophetic intercessional work, but God will designate people or a group of people for us to physically intercede for, to sometimes in the case of spiritual warfare, that he will put you in front of other people and that you take on the things that are actually afflicting somebody else. Jesus is our intercessor. To me, that's a wonderful boost in confidence to know that Jesus is our active intercessor and that he is positioned not only to speak on our behalf before the Father as to what we're going through and how we're struggling, but that he's also intercessing supernaturally on our behalf as the head of his church. Hebrews 4:14 through 15 says this, "So then we must cling in faith to all we know to be true, for we have a magnificent king priest, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who rose into the heavenly realm for us and now sympathizes with us in our frailty. He understands our humanity, for as a man, our magnificent king priest was tempted in every way, just as we are, and conquered sin." I think it's really important that because he's overcome, we have the ability to overcome. So sin is no longer the excuse for us. We cannot, as Christians who are filled with the presence of God, to say that sin, number one, is this barrier, that we experience this condemnation, that we go through all this nonsense and this self-loathing that sometimes people crawl into. No, we have the overcoming power of Christ dwelling within us, that we have the ability not only through the Spirit, but also through Messiah, the ability to overcome sin, not on our own, but through relationship, through intimacy with Christ. Which leads me to my point. Jesus, our king priest, was tempted in every way and now intercedes, understanding everything that we are experiencing. If Christ understands everything we're experiencing and has given us the power of the Holy Spirit in which to overcome sin and the mindset of the flesh, then we must come into agreement with God and put it away once and for all. And this is not to say that we're not going to make mistakes. We are. But the motive within us has to shift. And it's only by the power of the Holy Spirit in relationship with Christ that we put away our frailty and our fallen nature, just as Christ did, that we may also become an intercessor for someone else led in the Spirit. Until next week, be blessed.